So now we are recording it, but I am going to post this as kind of an overview to go with the plan or complement it. And so that way parents can watch this, they can look at the information, and then we do have a way to take questions and try to get you the best information. But for tonight's purposes, in trying to keep this to an overview, about 30 minutes, we're not going to take questions on the spot, but we're already posting some of the answers to the FAQ. So if you take a look at that, then you can start getting some of that information. One of the things I want to mention to you is that as we were devising the information in our reopening plan, there were two key themes that came up. One was health and safety, and the other one was equity and learning. Many of you may have been involved with some surveys that were done in May. We also did a survey in June, and so those key themes came up. And so that's what we've tried to provide things with that in mind. Also, when you look at this information, there are a couple assumptions that we've made in regards to how we've devised what school might look like next year. And one of those assumptions is that we did design how school might look with that assumption that COVID-19 will still be with us on the first day of school. And unfortunately, it could be with us throughout the school year. I wish that wasn't the case, but I do think that's an important thing to point out, that I don't know that we would design these processes and procedures if we felt like on the first day of school, we won't have COVID-19. It won't be with us throughout the school year. So we really had to account, how do we start school? How do we prioritize health and safety? But we're also assuming that all of us are going to have to deal with what does that look like when COVID-19 is still present within our community. So want to make sure everyone knows that. We also know that those rates and cases may fluctuate. So that's why we tried to provide options. We know that what today looks like, a month from now, the first day of school looks like, 6 months from now, it could look different. So we want to be able to provide different ways to match what is happening within our community here. And so that's why we did want to provide some of those options. And so and we designed our learning options to try to take into account all of those different features. One of the things I did want to mention, as we launched our plan, we're already getting a little bit of feedback that we do want to try to be responsive to. We know we're asking parents for input, and so we know that parents are going to want to take in some information. They're wanting to get as much information as possible before making some decisions. As you may have seen, other districts released some of their plans today, and some of those districts did definitively say that this is how we would start in-person school. And I don't know that there's any district that is doing more than what we're calling the fixed blended option. And so I do want to let parents know that at this point, given what we're seeing in our community, it does seem like it would not be possible to just open school in person 5 days a week with all of our students coming that wanted to come. It just doesn't seem like that is a scenario that any district in the area is entertaining, and that doesn't seem like that's something that would be prudent to decide. So if I'm trying to give you as much guidance as possible in regards to what would in-person look like, I think it's probably at best we might be able to implement the fixed blended or the hybrid A/B option. Likewise, we also have parents that are already choosing our virtual option. And so that certainly is another option that other districts are considering as well. So I know that's tough on parents. I know we're putting you in a position where you're trying to have to make those decisions, and just know that we also are trying to give you options, but also be as decisive as possible. Next week, I do anticipate announcing what we feel is the best option to start school, so that we can get that in place and make plans for it. So with that, I do want to get into going through some of the learning options with you, so that if we are able to implement some of the in-person options, I want to give you a feel for kind of what that might look like. What are some of the things as far as routines that are going to be necessary with students that are coming into the school, regardless of kind of what in-person option exactly looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and probably for the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'll be going through some of the slides that I've prepared to give just a little bit more information on some of those learning options. One of the things that I mentioned is that we are trying to use health and safety and equity in learning as our overall guiding principles. At the same time, we do know that communication is vitally important. As I mentioned, we know we're going to have to be adaptable, and we know that we're going to have to focus on readiness regardless of what learning option our kids are participating in. So these are some of the commitments that we feel are going to be important going forward. I want to go through a couple of the learning options, and like I said, there's a lot more information that you have at your disposal, but I just wanted to hit a couple highlights from some of our learning options. This graphic was meant to try to give parents and staff a clear understanding that we really are trying to look at what's the continuum of in-person options. So if you feel like coming on site and learning is the best thing to do for your child, here's what those may look like. And then likewise, if you feel like the best option would be for your kids to learn at home, we do want to have a quality virtual option for parents and kids using our Affton staff to implement both of those options. And so what I'm going to do is kind of go into those in-person options. So right now I want to kind of get into what some of those in-person options might look like. And so this is that top graphic. And so as I mentioned, when we are going into designing this year, we assume that their COVID-19 is going to be with us on the first day, and it could very well be with us throughout the school year. What we heard a lot from parents and from staff, they really do want to get back to on-site, in-person learning. And so that's why that's an option. At the same time, we also felt like we might need to transition into a fixed blended. That's might even be where we start the school year, is in a fixed blended. And lastly, we might encounter circumstances where it's not possible to have hardly any staff and students coming into the building, and therefore we all have to engage in distance learning. So we wanted people to know that we feel like all of those are possibilities. And as I mentioned, right now, if we had to make a decision tonight or tomorrow, what would be the most we think we could do with an in-person option, it is looking like the fixed blended option. So I want to go ahead and go into what might you think about when you think of those in-person options that would bring staff and students back into the building. So our on-site option, once again, I want you to know that there's a strong sentiment that I think a lot of parents and a lot of staff do want, and kids want to be back face-to-face together, learning the way that they remember school from last year and the previous years. As we're trying to engineer health and safety to try to go along with in-person learning, this slide and the other slides are meant to help you understand. I don't know that there's going to be anything that we would maybe consider normal when you think about even getting back to in-person learning. So there's a number of things that I'd like to point out on this slide that would also be true of our next option, even if we go to the fixed blended option. And one of the key things that we feel is important for staff members and for students to have is a face covering or mask. And we feel like that is something that can help keep people safe when they are together and when they are in our schools. All of our staff will be required in aligning with the current St. Louis County mask order. We felt like grades 3 and up would be the grades that we would require masks. And I believe the order says ages 9 and up, but that's something that we feel is important. One of the other key things that I want to mention right up front that also goes with this option and the next option. So anytime students are coming on campus, we are asking our parents to do a health screening before the child comes to school. And so that's something that we're going to put out what the symptoms are to look for, what are the things that would go into that. We're also asking the same of our staff. We're asking our staff to be accountable for screening themselves. Our staff will fill out confirmation each day that they are symptom-free before reporting to work. Our parents won't need to fill anything out, but that is something that we are asking. We really want our parents to help us with that screening procedure. One of the reasons we don't feel we have the ability to screen all students is that one of the practices we're being told that we really should screen students, if we're going to do that, before they get into the building. And we don't feel like we have the capacity to screen all students and all staff outside of the building before they get in. And when we do those screenings, probably the thing that would be the most definitive would be checking temperatures. And although that is an important aspect of screening, it is not the only aspect. And so we didn't think it was worth just using that one aspect to decide who's able to come in and who's not. So that's something that, know there's a lot of thoughts out there on how to do screenings, but that is what our current thoughts are on. I don't think anybody would be opposed to screening every student and every staff member. It's just the process of not causing a congestion, not causing people to have to stand in long lines, and then how do we manage that in a way that is operational as well as trying to be safe. And so those are a couple things that I wanted to mention. Also at school, we are going to try to keep cohorts of kids together. So we are going to group kids, have them in certain zones of the building. And so we really aren't going to have any routines that call for all students being in one part of the building at some point during the day. We really are trying to make sure that a particular grade level is only in this part of the building, while still trying to integrate things like recess and specials. But instead of the kids going to one classroom and all kids cycling through one classroom or one area of the building, we're trying to have those adults come to the kids where they are in their classrooms. We do want to make sure we're providing outdoor breaks, recess, things of that nature. So I definitely don't want you to think that kids would just be in one classroom for the entire day. However, also know movement about the building will be limited. And that's something that we really feel like is part of engineering health and safety. The other item is eating meals in the classroom. So once again, trying to keep a scenario where all of our kids are going through one part of the building every single day. So those are just some of the things that are going to be part of what does a school day look like. As you can see, we're trying to figure out ways to get back together for in-person learning. At the same time, I don't want anyone to think that it would look about like school has always looked. There are definitely going to be some different precautions in place. So that's a little bit on what this option looks like. And once again, I think we know that a lot of priority is put on education. We know that kids and teachers interacting in person is really what people enjoy about school. And that's why we wanted to keep this option as a possibility, because we know that that is one of the best ways to do school. At the same time, we also have to look at our current conditions. And so as I mentioned, the fixed blended option, one of the things that it does is it helps us limit the number of students that are on campus in a classroom on any particular day. So you can kind of think of it as maybe taking a class and splitting it in half. This half of the students attend on these days, this half of the class attends on these other days. And so it's really meant to provide a way for teachers and students to implement strict social distancing, meaning at least 6 feet apart, where desks are arranged in ways that maximize the ability to stay in that zone of 6 feet as far as social distance. We would anticipate classes of having 10, 12 students and trying to arrange things in a manner that really kept that at the forefront of the priority. We know that this definitely causes all kinds of situations where we're having staff and parents that are having to adapt to a situation that is certainly less than ideal. At the same time, this is our way of showing that we do think in-person learning is important. And if there's any way we can engineer a schedule or a structure to keep that going, even if it isn't every day of the week, Monday through Friday, this option is meant to show you that attempt at trying to make that happen, because we do believe that that is something that, even though it might not be the best case scenario, we feel like it could be beneficial for both staff and students. So that's the fixed blended. There definitely is a lot of work to do in regards to, we want to keep families together. So we certainly don't want one sibling to be assigned one day and then another sibling or member of that household to be assigned a different day. So we do want to keep families together, so that if you have kids in multiple buildings, the days that you're coming on site would be the same. And so those are things that, if in fact that's the decision for the district, we will fill in those details so that you're advised of those. And once again, we know we're going to have to work to make that as doable as possible. But I wanted you to at least understand the logic behind fixed blended. It really is cutting down on the number of students that are at the building on any particular day. Likewise, one of the ideas behind this schedule is that there is one day of the week there all staff and students are learning virtually with a very set schedule. And so by doing this, it allows us time to very thoroughly clean the building that day. We're going to be cleaning during the day, we're going to be cleaning at night, but if we have that one day where nobody is at school, that also allows us to get to some cleaning to make sure it's done as thorough as possible. So those are some of the features of the fixed blended. And like I said, if I'm reading the current situations, I don't know how we could start in-person learning beyond this scope. I think this might very well be the most capacity we could have. The next option I want to talk with you about is, we understand that even though we would want to get back to in-person learning, even though we feel like maybe we could start the school year with the fixed blended option, the reality is there might be instances where it's just simply not safe for any amount of students. Even if we sort of cut the number of students in half and had just 10 or 12 students in a classroom, there could be circumstances where this is not possible. And so that's why we also wanted parents to know that that also could be a situation that I don't think any school district wants to be in, but certainly it could seem like that's what the conditions are calling for. And so we wanted to be parents to be advised of that. If we have to implement distance learning, then we want to have a set schedule of when academics are happening. We want it to be as productive as possible from an academic standpoint, as well as all other standpoints. So that's definitely something that would be different than the way we ended the school year. So where we ended the school year, we know that we were all thrust into that situation. We don't want to go back to that, but ultimately, if we did have to learn from home, we do anticipate working with our staff and in concert working with our students and parents to have a much more structured way of what that would look like each day. So with that, those are what we consider our in-person options. And so in choosing an in-person option, knowing that it doesn't seem like we could probably start the year much higher than the fixed blended, we also don't want it to be a surprise to parents that there could be a situation where we have to go to 100% distance learning. On the other end of the spectrum, we do think that there could be some parents that maybe it doesn't really matter what's going on in the community with COVID-19. They just feel like learning from home is going to have to be the option for their child this school year. And so we wanted to have a robust virtual option where we're using our Affton teachers to support the learning of those students from home in a way that is as robust as we can. And so that's why we want to make sure parents know that we understand that could be a decision, and we want to try to work with you to make sure that that decision comes with keeping learning on track for your child. This is one of the things that we're asking parents to give us feedback on so that we can determine how best to allocate staff to serve these needs, as well as the possible in-person needs. And so the virtual academy, as I mentioned, is primarily learning from home with direction from a teacher, but then also there is the option, if we are able, to still allow students to come on campus. The virtual plus option is if there's a parent that has a child that for the most part, they want to learn at home virtually, but maybe there is one program or there's one thing that they are really connected with. We want to try to work to keep them connected with that and try to set up a schedule to where they would specifically come on site just to engage in that I guess you could say program, support, resource, or course that is very important to them. So we are trying to build in a little bit of flexibility with the virtual academy as well. And so with the virtual academy, I won't spend a whole lot of time on this since I think a lot of folks may somewhat understand what goes with this option. I will point out that regardless of what option parents choose, we will have devices for all of our kids in grades K through 12. So every kid will be issued a device. So whether you plan on attending in person or whether you choose the virtual academy, all of our kids will get Chromebooks. And so as conditions may need to change, or simply maybe a student needs to stay home because even though they are allowed to come to school per the schedule we've set up, maybe they do need to stay home because they're sick or for whatever reason. We want to make sure they have a Chromebook, and we also are able to try and help parents get connected to internet resources as well. So we'll have a way to try and connect parents to getting that type of internet connection at home. And I kind of already alluded to this. The Virtual Plus is for those students that maybe there is a particular program that it is hard to continue with that if you're at home all of the time. And so we want to try to work and make allowances for things of that nature so that we are able to try to keep them connected to something that is still very important to them. So those are some of the items in regards to the learning options. And like I said, those are the things that we have some information posted. We'll continue to try to keep up with the FAQ, but we wanted to make sure that was one of the things we touched on tonight. Now I'm going to pivot into a couple of other items that we also want parents to be advised of that are go along with the learning options, but at the same time are somewhat separate. So I wanted to touch on transportation. As you can tell, one of the things we're trying to hold a very high premium on when we talk about health and safety is social distancing. And on school buses, it's very hard to keep kids 6 feet apart. And so the only way that we have found to do that is to significantly limit the number of students that are on the bus at any one time. And so we do anticipate one student per seat, alternating rows, staggering rows. And so our capacity to transport is going to be significantly diminished this school year. So our policy and the state statute requires transportation beyond 3.5 miles. So we definitely will come up with a way to do that. As you are filling out your survey on your learning option, you're also going to be asked, or parents will be asked, whether they would like to have transportation. If they're less than 3.5 miles, we're going to try to fill as many requests as we can, starting with those that are the farthest away and working our way in. So we really are asking parents to help us as much as they can with getting kids to school, knowing that we are going to be very limited. If there are children that are in the same household, that they live together, those individuals can sit in the same seat. But for the most part, if it is students from different households, we are going to arrange the buses a one student per seat, skipping rows, and then also staggering rows. If you're a bus rider, we do also ask that you wear a face mask. So even our students at Manier that are not required to wear a face mask, if they're on the bus, we are asking that face mask be worn at all time by drivers and students. And once again, that's to make that process as safe as possible. We're going to assign seats so that we know where students are sitting on a daily basis. And likewise, between routes, we are going to have our bus drivers sanitize the seats. So once one group of students is dropped off, then the driver has a sanitizing device that helps them do that in a little bit more efficient manner. It's a sprayer, so they don't literally have to touch every seat and wipe it down by hand. We're going to try to make that process as efficient and effective as possible. Nevertheless, we are going to sanitize the seats in between picking up the next group of students. So that's something that we wanted to touch on in regards to transportation. And once again, we appreciate as much support as we can get with that, and trying to still offer transportation, but knowing that it is going to be significantly reduced, or our capacity is. A couple other things that I wanted to just go over real quick as we kind of wrap up here is just what can you expect with the physical environment. And so you can see that this is an example of how a classroom might be set up if we were in the fixed blended model, meaning that we were trying to adhere to strict social distancing. So we are going to have markings on the floors so that as we have kids that are waiting in the hallway to do different things, we are going to have as many cues as possible to keep them socially distanced. Likewise, we want to have signage so that as we're using the restroom facilities, it's clear what the capacity is, and we're monitoring that we have only a certain number of students in the restroom. If there are hallways that are only going to be designated as one direction, or if this side of the hallway, you're only supposed to walk this way and the other side the other, we're going to do the best we can to do that. Our water fountains, we are going to use the bottle filler option, and so that will be the preferred way to use our water fountains in regards to making sure that students do have access to water. At the same time, we're doing that in a way that is as safe as possible. So those are some of the features that are going to be in place that we think will help make the environment safe and healthy. Here's a couple other items that I've mentioned, such as eating meals in the classroom instead of everyone trying to cycle through the cafeteria. This will also help with keeping things socially distanced. I do want to let you know that regardless of what option you choose, so regardless of what the district might also implement, if you need food service and meal service, so if you're a family that chooses virtual, we will have a way to provide meal service. And so we are going to make sure that no matter what scenario a student or a family is in, we still can try to provide that meal service on a regular basis. Same way with the fixed blended. So we know there's days where kids may not be at school, but if they still need that meal service, we will have options on how to try and conduct that meal service so that we keep that in place regardless of the schedule that's being in place. We are going to, a couple other things here, as I mentioned, limited transitions. We're also going to have limited access to the building. So as much as possible, we are going to try to work with parents in regards to serving their needs without parents or visitors coming into the building. And so having that interaction at the front desk, or having that interaction so that we can bring children out to the parents, so that instead of them having to come in and always retrieve a student for one reason or another, we're going to try to engineer processes that help make that us able to accomplish that without having a lot of people enter the building. So those are some things that we're also looking at doing. Limiting large gatherings, so not having all school assemblies, things of that nature that would bring a lot of individuals in close contact where we wouldn't be able to ensure the amount of social distancing that we feel is necessary for the environment. Some of the last thing I'll wrap up with, this information is something that I touched on earlier. We know that this year more than ever, parents are going to want to be able to have things streamlined, especially if you have children in several buildings. And so we know that the district sometimes has used different features for different grade levels. We are going to try and use one learning platform. It's known as Canvas. So whether you have a student that's at Manier or a student that's at the high school, we do want you as a parent to know that their essential learning, the things that the teacher really thinks is important for them to know and complete and have access to, if that's assignments, if that's tutorials, whatever it is that the teacher believes the child needs access to, we will have that in Canvas. And so that's our way of trying to make sure that we don't have 10 different access points, and they're different for every building. Likewise, we want to go to one reminder system that teachers are using. So if a teacher thinks that a student or a parent needs to be reminded about something that's important, maybe it's some academic information or whatever it is, the remind feature, which some of our teachers already use and some of our parents are familiar with, that is integrated within Canvas. So we really are trying to help streamline things for parents, because we know more than ever, given some of the learning options that I've explained, it'll be important to try to cut down on as much confusing operations as possible. So that's one thing that we are ready to implement next school year. Lastly, I wanted to end up with just what lies ahead from here. Our staff members, I gave them an update on Friday. They got the information that parents received today as well. And then we are looking for this week to be a critical week for input. So we understand that we're asking parents to make decisions. We also want to hear feedback. We want to get questions. We're posting FAQs. So we're going to try to make sure that we get as much information out there as possible, so that when we make a decision on what the start of school learning option will be, we can really weigh everything that we're hearing this week from parents and from staff. So one thing that we do anticipate doing next week, as early as possible, is making that announcement of what would the in-person learning option be. Certainly, if you're a family that's already set on the virtual academy option, by all means, we anticipate that option staying in place. So there's probably not as much uncertainty there in regards to if that's the option that you think is best. We've got that option out there. And like I said, we want to get that information to you as quick as possible. The first week of August, that's when we probably will publish whether there's been any modifications to our overall plan. So as much as we think these are things that have to be in place to make in-person learning safe, while also making sure that we have other options, if there's something that needs to be revisited, we are willing to do that. And so if there are options or if there are requirements within this document that overwhelmingly folks don't think should be in there or need to be in there, we at least want to have that conversation and revisit those items. So that first week of August, we are going to republish this document to see whether there's been any changes, but we didn't want to wait till that first week of August to announce the learning option of how we're going to start school. So this is some of the information that I wanted to share with you. And so I know this is a tough time for everyone, for parents, and also for for school officials, staff members, and I appreciate you joining me this evening. We are going to post this information, and like I said, we're going to get as many answers as we can to you as timely as we can. And I just can't say enough about how I know that our families, our parents, our kids are ready to get back to school. And at the same time, the situations that we're encountering are simply, unprecedented. And so we're all learning through this together. And so I appreciate your support as much as possible, knowing that we do need to make the right decisions for Affton. So as much as we can look around our area, we can look around the nation, we really are trying to hone in on what is it that Affton parents want? What is it that Affton teachers want? What is it that we think is the right thing to do? And so I want to let you know that any comments you post, it will be looked at. It will be considered. And we know that this is not the situation that any of us would orchestrate. So whenever you read through that that reopening guide, I don't know that any of that is the way that any of us would like to design school. And yet it is a situation that we have to navigate together. And so the one thing we will want to try to commit to do is to keep up the communication. And, even if we can't have 100% agreement on every option, we at least want to try to get that out to parents as quick as possible. At the same time, I think all of us know if we were having this webinar and conversation in June, we might have come to very different conclusions than having this conversation right now. So while I know starting school is on everybody's mind, I also want to make sure that when we put a decision out, when we put out things, we can show people, here's the input we got. And ultimately, the last thing you want to do is have to backtrack on a decision the very next day that you put it out there. So we really are trying to do everything we can to gather the input. And then ultimately, when we do chart a course, we want that to be a true course and a true decision for our staff and for our parents and for our kids. So with that, I appreciate everyone who tuned in today. Just know that we're working hard every day to do the right thing. And we'll get this webinar posted. We'll continue to work with you. And I hope your family's well. I hope you are well. And we will definitely talk again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.